You are now tuned into the sounds of Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
Tuned in to Big Nate Sports Talk, the show that is on all the time, anytime. And now, ladies and gentlemen, the next big thing, the latest up-and-coming sports journalist, your host, Nathan Snell.
So sorry, I apologize. Let's start from the top again. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is your host, Nathan Snell, the Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast. This is episode 16, episode 17, part 2, One Mind, One Goal. We're previewing the playoffs. And in this episode, we are getting ready for the Friday matchups. But before we get into that, there's a few things I want to say up front. Washington Commanders and the Baltimore Ravens recap. We'll have that up. You should already see that by now. The Maryland Terrapins, we're going to be recapping the previous two games and previewing, which is, in my opinion, a big game coming up, which is Friday against Virginia. In this episode, you've seen part one. This is going to be a continued series since we're now in the WNBA playoffs. So this is part two. Part three will most likely come out sometime this weekend. I got to communicate with my guy, Brendan Potts, who is actually going to be joining me on this episode. But I did want to clarify before we get into the episode, I did edit segment in the part one called Exit Stage Right. And I misspoken, and thank you to Brendan Potts. He clarified it for me. He cussed me out. No, I'm just kidding. That the Seattle Storm won 11 games and lost 29 games. So thank you, Brendan, for that. But with that being said, let's welcome Mr. Brendan Potts back to Big Nate Sports Talk Podcast as we are getting ready for the Friday games for the playoffs. Brendan, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm happy to be back. It's kind of a weird feeling to talk about the playoffs and not talk about the Storm. So don't mind me as I'm getting used to it by the day. So
they will be back soon. Give it time. They'll be back there.
Oh yeah, I know. We'll be back.
Absolutely. So it's been an interesting start off to the playoffs so far. We're going to recap the games for the Sun, Sky, and Aces and Link game. We're going to recap those two games of game one. We're going to preview the Friday games. The Washington Mystics and the New York Liberty, which I think has the potential of being kind of last year, Brendan, with your Seattle Storm and the Washington Mystics, and then the Dallas Wings and the Atlanta Dream. Let's start with the Washington Mystics versus the New York Liberty. Washington Mystics. It has been a season that one can imagine with the injuries. But perseverance, I will say, is the word that sticks out to me. They have managed to make the playoffs for a second straight season. Um, and they come in as the 7th seed, facing the number 2 seed at New York Liberty. Um, Jonathan Cobb won Executive of the Year. I was not surprised with that. They have a team up there in New York. They did have a regular season championship banner, the Commissioner's Cup. They're looking to win their first actual WNBA championship. I think this has the making of being a good series. Brendan, I'm gonna start with you. When you look at this series, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to? We'll start on the Washington side. What are your keys for Washington to win this series?
Yeah, I think listen, you nailed it on the head. They've been dealing with injuries, but I've always said if they're healthy, they're a top 3 team in the league. They're right up there with Connecticut, New York, and maybe even Vegas. They can compete with them. Shakira Austin's going to be a big loss for this team, and she's been helpful for the Mystics ever since or every time she's on the court. So it's going to be a big issue, especially with a front court like Brianna Stewart and Jonquel Jones. But Elena Delle Donne is back for another playoffs. So that's going to be a big help for them. This is going to be an uphill battle for the Mystics. But if anybody can pull it off, if anybody can pull off this upset, then they can. I think this series has every potential to be an upset out of all 4 first round series. So
yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that one. I think the key, my article, it's I'm almost done publishing it. It'll be on MarylandSportsBlog.com, previewing this matchup. The biggest thing is how they look defensively without Shakira Austin. Little context: Shakira Austin suffered a hip injury back on the June 25th. If I remember correctly, and that was against the New York Liberty. And several weeks later, came back against Las Vegas and reactivated the hip injury. From what Eric Tebow said in the media the other day, she's going to miss tomorrow's game and then the Tuesday game, and then we'll see what happens. Really, they're looking for more of a second opinion and getting more testing. I looked at the statistic earlier. When Shakira is on the floor defensively, the Mystics net rate defensive rating is about 83. When she's not on the floor, it's about 103. It's going to be interesting to watch how they really keep New York out of the paint and who defends Jonquel Jones. They got to limit New York's touches, especially in the paint, and limiting fouls and getting limited to the line, because Washington is going to have to play harder, in my opinion. They're going to play at least twice as harder, especially when New York, they're a team that benefits from the free throw line, in my personal opinion. So, I mean, those are my things to look at in this series. And also, too, I think it starts with the guards. I think the key for Washington is the guard play. This is where Ariel Atkins, Brittany Sykes, Natasha Cloud. This is where you make your money. It's going to be up to them. So, and you touched on it. Elena Delle Donne is going to get her numbers. It's funny, interesting when she plays Stewie. Stewie does not produce effectively quite well. So it's going to be interesting.
Exactly. No, I was gonna say, you saying limited touches in the post. I'd say you let Brianna Stewart get hers, and if she can't, then you got to take advantage of it. Because I was listening to a podcast. It was Corinna and Calvin Wetzel. They're doing amazing things over there. They were previewing this series, and they said Elena Delle Donne. They said the same thing that you said about Elena Delle Donne and Brianna Stewart going up against each other. That's when Brianna Stewart usually has trouble, and that's why that's why Washington beat them in the final regular season game. Um, that's what has to happen is they have to limit Brianna Stewart, but treat it as if she goes off, then that's her getting hers. But if they somehow shut down Stewie or don't let her make those amazing shots that she does, then take advantage of it big time because those don't happen very often. Um, she has the potential to score 40, or she has potential to score what she scored 8 points. I was watching that scoring intensely because I wanted to see how many points Jewel Lloyd got before she broke the record.
Sure.
I believe she finished that game with 8 points. So that's her floor. So if she gets her ceiling, that it's gonna happen because it's Stewie. But if she gets her floor and that's what she's limited to, then they have to take advantage of it. They have to take X factors away. New York has a lot of X factors, whether they come off the bench or they start. Benijah Lane is a big one. If they let Benijah Laney cook, they're not going to have a chance in this series. If they let Courtney Vandersloot, if they let her score as opposed to making plays, she can make plays. We all know that. That's what she built her career off of. But if she gets double doubles with her scoring and her passing, then they're not going to have a chance. If they let Stephanie Dolson, if they let Stephanie Dolson go from the bench, then it's going to be harder for New York. So they can't let depth beat them. They have to let the stars get their own. And if they can't, they have to take advantage of it. That's why Shakira Austin's going to be a big loss for them because a player like Jonquil Jones has just come into her own at the perfect time of the season.
Yeah, I mean for sure. I 1000% co-sign all those points you made. I'm 1000% agree. I will also too say I'm curious to know how Washington will challenge their perimeter defense, especially on the guards. There are some weak points. I'm curious to see how they're going to attack them. I would like to see a little bit of pick and roll early. I know Tosh talked about that in the post practice media availability to see how they're going to defend. That's definitely going to be something to watch. I mean, what do you think? Do you feel as though can this Mystic team, can they do it? Can they force 3 games against a team that I feel is under the most pressure to get to the finals?
Oh yeah, they're under the most pressure for sure. Listen, I'll say I remember having this conversation last year about two, you could say similar teams in Seattle and in New York. And I'll say the same thing that I did last year. Even if it's a sweep, it's going to be a competitive sweep. And it's going to be 2 close games. If it is indeed a sweep. I'm gonna say it's 2 games, but they're very competitive. And I would have given what this will hurt as a Mystics fan. I would have given Washington the upset if Shakira Austin was healthy.
Interesting. I'm gonna disagree. Washington is going to take it to 3 games. Guaranteed. Because I think Washington has the formula to beat them. Even though when you look at them, they're outsized. Washington can compete with them. They've shown it. New York has to play 40 minutes of basketball well. One player really can't truly have a bad game, nor really can Washington. I watched, even through the injuries, Tiana Hawkins, Maisha Hines-Allen, Shatori Walker-Kimbrell, Lee Mung, they're they're going to be asked in the absence of Shakir Austin to step up. Even when Deladon and Ariel Atkins weren't there, they all stepped up. I think Washington will steal a game in New York. I think I just see it going to 3 games. I see game 3 as a game 3 at the ESA. Because if it is, I've already put the media credential request in there for it. But I see it going to 3 games at the ESA. I just feel like the Mystics can steal one. If you get one, because all you need is this thing is one, and it changes the whole series.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I completely agree with you. I think if any team can force 3 games or force a team like New York to 3 games, it's Washington. And I'll say the last thing on this series. I was at
Sure.
I was at Climate Pledge Arena for the last regular season game, and
That's right.
they had the I was at the team store and they had the New York and Mystics game on. And the score said Washington was up, and someone in front of me in line, I said, "Wow, they're beating the crap out of New York." And
Yes.
someone in front of me in line said, "Yeah, it seems like if any team or out of any team that New York has played this year, Washington's given them the most fits." And I said,
Yes.
"Yeah, that seemed to be the case." So I'm just going to leave the conversation on this series on that note. If any team is going to give New York the most fits in these playoffs, it's Washington.
I definitely agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Let's go into this next team. This next game, the Dallas Wings versus the Atlanta Dream. For me, I first and foremost, this is the first time since 2018 since Atlanta's made the playoffs. Okay, let's give them their flowers there. Dallas is a sleeper to get to the finals. I am a bit concerned with a couple things: leadership, accountability, and there's some other things I'm not liking because there was a question asked by media uh, personnel about their taking accountability, who is the leader, and that kind of that was kind of some tension in there. Let's just say for Atlanta, I think Atlanta's probably arguably I think they're probably one of the most toughest teams to rebound against. Watching them again, the last home game when they came here, they will rebound the crap out of the ball. I think I'm gonna come to you, Brendan. What are the keys in this series that you're looking for?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how Atlanta um, defends Satu Sabali. I almost said Nira. Um, but Satu Sabali. Um, she'll probably win most improved player. Um, so I'm interested to see how they play against Satu and if they can out rebound her or if they can box her out and beat her to rebounds. And can they defend her on the court? She's the definition of a unicorn if we've ever seen one. Both men or women. It's insane. Um, and the thing that will determine this series if Dallas is really for real or not, because you said exactly what I'm thinking. They can be a team that goes to the finals, or they have a floor. Their ceiling and their floor are very. It's a good thing to think about when you think about their ceiling, but it's very rough if you think about their floor. They can't get to their floor because their floor is a lottery team, but their their floor is a team. I just talked about the Mystics beating the Liberty as an upset. Um, this could also be an upset for Atlanta if Dallas plays at their floor, um, because they can definitely get get beat, maybe even swept if they play at their floor. Um, but if they play at their ceiling, they'll sweep Atlanta right out of the building, and they'll wait for most likely Connecticut. Um, so if Dallas doesn't want to get to their floor and they want to stay at their ceiling, Enrique cannot be the best player on Dallas on the floor for Dallas. It needs to be uh, Satu Sabli, and that makes both Enrique and Satu more dangerous. Um, I think a big factor in this series is going to be former Storm player Natasha Howard. If she plays if she plays like she has this season, then she's going to be a really big X factor for Dallas to win this series.
Yeah, no, hey, you're bringing the fire, and I like it. A couple of things I did want to add on to that. You know, we know Dallas has arguably one of the best offenses in the season. You know, you touched already Enrique, Satu, Natasha. I think other than the Aces, they had the most. They scored about almost 107 points per 100 possessions. I saw that stat somewhere. Bring your hand on that stat. The biggest thing that I'm looking for is they have to be efficient. Their pace is exceptionally well, and I think they're probably the best team. I think you talked about them. I think my key in this series is Tierra McCowan, and how really she on the offensive side and defensive side of the ball, because it'll be interesting to see how Cheyenne Parker, Monique Billings. I'm curious to see how they're going to really match up against her, because Atlanta, let's be realistically, in the playoffs, they are not the greatest offensive team. I think they were like, I saw the stats where they were ninth in offensive rating and they were like 10th in shooting percentage. And then they turned the ball over almost like 17 turnovers a game. They were like seventh. That's not going to win a playoff game. I said the only positive thing when I look at their stats is they're a good free throw shooting team. But I mean, I think not having Nia Coffey there, that makes a difference. It's going to be interesting to see who wins that rebounding battle for sure. You talked about Natasha Howard, Tierra McCowan. I'm watching how Cheyenne Parker, Nas Hillman, Monique Billings. I'm watching how they're going to definitely be getting in the glass, because especially you're going to need Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray, respectfully, to play well this whole series. But if we're being honest, I really do think that if I don't know. I really think that Atlanta, for some reason, they went 2-13 against the top four teams, and then I mean they did beat them in the regular season when Dallas beat Atlanta. I mean, what do you think, Brendan? What do you think?
I got
Are you calling it a sweep? What do you call it? What do you think? What are you thinking?
yeah, I mean I want to give Atlanta a game, but they gotta make their shots. They have to. They have to be. I think you said you're looking for Dallas to be efficient. I'm looking for Atlanta to be efficient. They have to make their shots in order to beat this Dallas team, because whether they make or miss their shots, Dallas, they shoot the ball. They're not afraid to shoot the ball. Um, so that's something that Vegas and Dallas have in common, like you touched on earlier. Um, I'm gonna pick Dallas in two, and I actually misspoke when I was breaking down. I thought they would play Connecticut. They would actually play Vegas. I got the seedings wrong.
It's all good.
This is it's a 4-5. So I think the home court advantage for Dallas is going to be really big here. I think I've spoken on it as I've been on that if Dallas gets a home court, then they could be really dangerous. So they have home court. So I think they could be really dangerous, and they can give a team like Vegas a challenge in the next round.
Yeah, I'm with you too. I think I think it's going to be interesting to see how Atlanta comes out game one. I think it all depends on how Coach Wright gets them prepared. It all depends on that. So if they do all those right things, I think they'll be okay. But I'm going to say sweep.
Guaranteed.
I will say last thing for Atlanta.
Sure.
This is Ryan Howard. This is Ryan Howard's first time in the playoffs. I'm looking to see how she performs and how she takes in the bright lights of the postseason, because that's really what Ryan Howard's done the first 2 years in her career is absolutely crazy for a player like her, for a player in her this young in her career. So it's really cool for her development to see her make this progress. Two-time All-Star and first time in the playoffs. So let's see how she does in the bright lights. And I'm not saying she can't handle it. I'm 100% sure she can.
Absolutely.
I just want to see how she performs, just to see her development wise, because I think it'll be very promising for Atlanta fans if she can perform in the postseason despite them maybe getting swept.
Oh, for sure. No, I totally get what you're coming from. Most definitely. I think Alicia Gray's been in the playoffs before. They're going to be fine. I think it's just how Coach Wright is just going to have them prepared. I think that's just going to be something we got to look for, in my personal opinion, in this series. So, and really, how Dallas comes out, because Dallas can sometimes will take their foot off the gas, and that's Dallas. Before we transition into game twos, we had the Connecticut Sun versus the Minnesota Lynx, Las Vegas Aces, Chicago Sky getting ready for game two, round one. Let's get into the sponsor of Big Nate Sports Talk podcast, and that is Zagnif Apparel. Ladies and gentlemen, do you want to dress like you're already famous? You can and you will with Zagnif Apparel.
The following is a presentation of Zagnif Productions, LLC. Introducing Zagnif Apparel. Our comfortable line of leisure wear and athletic wear will have you comfortable and stylish at any occasion. Whether you're at the gym, out shopping, or just relaxing at home. Whether you're an athlete or just want to lay around the house, we've got the perfect outfit for you. Stop by our website today and pick up your favorite pieces. Zagnif Apparel. Dress like you're already famous.
You can, and you most certainly will, with a nice 15% off using my discount code on your final purchase, Big Nate. Thank you for Zagnif Apparel for being a sponsor of Big Nate Sports Talk podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, you will dress like you're already famous. We'll be right back. And we're back. And let's get into the game two of round one for these four teams: the Connecticut Sun versus the Minnesota Lynx, Las Vegas Aces or Chicago Sky. But painfully, let's just get into the games itself, which looked very, very one-sided for one team. Just what are you expecting in Game 2 from the Minnesota Lynx or the Connecticut Sun?
I mean, much of the same. I gotta give props to Connecticut because they look good. I mean, despite the narrative with Connecticut for the past like odd number of years, I'd say, as opposed or exception of last year, is they're not they're a great regular season team, but they never perform in the postseason. And obviously last year they killed that narrative and they went to the finals, and then Kurt Miller left to go to LA, and Stephanie White came in for Connecticut, and she's been killing it so far this season. Jonquil Jones left, and I think that was a really big breath of fresh air for Connecticut. Um, Courtney Williams left too, and I think that was actually a big loss. But they've been playing really well, and they really showed it in the postseason. So they have to be given props, I think. Um, I'm sorry, Minnesota is the worst rebuilding team I've ever seen. They are just so. They were a rebuilding team the first quarter of the season, and then they just had a bunch of rookies and a couple of veterans, and Nafisha Collier just decided to go on a scoring rampage. Not as big as Jewel Lloyd's though, and she just carried them into the playoffs. She said I carried a child for 9 months last year. I'm ready. I've done that, and I've come back and played. So I'm ready to carry you into the playoffs this year, and that's what she did. Otherwise, take Nafisha Collier off, and they're rebuilding. So it's it they're just the worst rebuilding team I've ever seen, and they are not a playoff team. They aren't. They are a team that should be in the lottery, ready to bring Paige Beckers back home. Um, and I mean, I hope they get treated like it in the next game. I think it's going to be another blowout. I think Connecticut is going to be bringing out the Bruins, and they're just going to be like, all right, we get a few days of rest and ready for our next opponent. Um, but you got to give props to really both teams for the seasons that they have. As much as I dogged on Minnesota, they did it. They made it to the postseason, um, and they this is a good experience for us. As I said about Ryan Howard, this is a good experience for the rookies, Diamond Miller, Dorka Juhas. And by the way, a good matchup for Dorka Juhas to go against Dewana Bonner. Um, but it's a good little test to get their feet in the water of the postseason for to start their careers. So that's it. That's pretty much what I have for this series in particular.
No.
I mean, you took the words out of you took the words out of my mouth, Brendan. Look, I Coach Reeves said it in the post presser. They just that it was awful. They allowed 30 points on turn. They allowed 30 points on turnovers.
He didn't even try.
They that just was not Lynx basketball. The biggest thing, if you watched part one, I said it was going to be interesting to see how Minnesota took care of the ball, and there were 19 cases of them dropping, just turning the ball over, and that just won't, and that's not going to win you any basketball games.
I can't defend that. What do you want me to say to that?
And then it starts with the guards. I mean, they just, I have no idea what went through with them. And I mean, Coach Reeves talked about she didn't like how the playoff schedule looked, but I mean, respectfully, I don't think that should be an excuse. I mean, the Suns' offense was fueled by their bad offense, Minnesota's. I mean, that's the most turnovers they committed in a game since the August game where they played Connecticut and they turned the ball over 19 times, and then the July 30th game against Connecticut where they turned the ball over 20 times. So I really think it's more of an individual thing where they have to really figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? What did I have to be better? And respectfully, I think Nafisa Collier is on my all first team, but respectfully, she did not look like the Nafisa Collier that looked like an MVP candidate, in my opinion. She just had an off night. We all know she's the focal point every night. I mean, they just and don't get me started around the others. I mean, they just did not help her in any way whatsoever. Diamond Miller, love Diamond Miller, but watching her sometimes, even at Maryland, when it comes like March Madness, you don't know which kind of Diamond Miller you're going to get with. You watched her in those last two games, that Wednesday game where she had dropped 35 points, and then you come out in this game 2-9 in shooting, and that's kind of what people will kind of one of the biggest critiques of her being efficient in shooting the ball. I mean, again, this is a series where you just expect growth, and I mean, Nafisa, you're not going to see her score 5 points on 1 of 5 shooting in the first half. That can't happen. So I really, really think that everybody is going to step it up. And I thought what killed them was the threes. Connecticut was just raining threes, and I need a little bit more bench production for Connecticut. But other than that,
Yeah, for Connecticut, that you took the I was going to use the 3-point reference. Connecticut made 3 times more threes than Minnesota did, +1.
Yep.
So, and they made 30% more threes. So I was at the eye test of this game. I was watching this game. They just shot out of the building and they made all their shots. Connecticut did. You look at Connecticut's roster; they have a lot of depth. Like I'm looking at this roster, not even the scoring. Rebecca Allen, Natisha Heidemann, Dejanay Carrington, all immediate X factors for me. I love Dejanay Carrington. I love the way she plays. And I actually, I remember coming on your show like mid-season asking, where's the Dejanay minutes? And then the next game she has
that's right. 20, I remember that.
25 points. I go, there we go. So I definitely take credit for that.
For sure.
Rebecca Allen's big X factor, 5 for 6 from 3, 15 points. That's one of those games where you're fine with her scoring or with her scoring all her points from the 3-point line. That's a game where you're fine.
Don't forget about Ty Harris.
Let me know if you heard. Yeah. Ty Harris, Tiffany Hayes is another one. Let me know if you've heard this stat before. Another Alyssa Thomas double-double, 15 points, 10 assists. Let me know if you've heard that one before.
I've heard that stat. I don't know how many times. And and for me, she's my MVP. I'm just going to go ahead and say she's my MVP. They just been playing well.
I can see any of the three nominees that are in the MVP race. I can see any of them winning.
Yeah, for sure. And again, this Connecticut Sun team gives Coach Stephanie White, her props. And I remember when they asked her, a question pregame, not having and then not having Bree Jones out there, and they're just still playing efficient. It's by far some great basketball. But I'm sorry, they're going to get swept, Minnesota. I'm guaranteeing it. Guaranteed. I just think with Connecticut's physicality, and I think Cheryl should make some adjustments to that starting lineup, personally. But yeah, that lineup just had no answers for Connecticut's defense, and the guards didn't do a lot. They're awful.
I gotta get. First of all, I second that. I think they're gonna get swept as well. Why you gotta discount Kayla McBride like that? You said Nafisa Collier didn't get any help. Kayla McBride, 16 points.
No. She. I'm saying. Let me clarify that. Nafisa, outside of Kayla McBride.
Yeah.
She didn't have much help. I mean,
there you go.
You need. They paid Tiffany Mitchell. You know, Aerial Powers. I would like to see her get some opportunities. Diamond Miller. I know Lindsay Allen's not there, but I mean, come on now, like, because the key is to me is
I agree.
The key is their guards in this series, and they just it's just I don't know. I can't defend that. Las Vegas versus Chicago. Can we just go ahead and just say it's a sweep? I mean, hey, look, Chelsea Gray. Oh my gosh, she shows why she was Finals MVP. At 20 points in Chicago. I mean,
Asia Wilson, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, and then
Alana Coates.
And then Kia Stokes has stepped it up. Like, oh my gosh. I feel so bad for it would have been Chicago or it would have been LA. I would have felt so bad for whoever finished in that 8th spot. And unfortunately it's Chicago, and all they got is Kalea Copper and Courtney Williams. When Courtney Williams played in Seattle, I bring that game up because I was at that game. I said Courtney Williams is playing the hardest on this floor right now, and she is just it doesn't matter who the opponent is. She will always play. She plays like she thinks she's the best player on the floor, which sometimes it's the case, and other times, especially in this series, she is not. But it doesn't faze her. She's not afraid of the moment, and that's one of the things I love about Courtney Williams. Yeah, it's a sweep. The Aces are saying, "All right, thank you. Next."
Pretty much.
I think they need the sweep. Vegas does, because if something's going to beat them and derail them from winning a championship, it's fatigue. So they need the sweep.
I agree.
They just need to take care of their business and move on.
I agree. I mean, I still think. I mean, with Chicago, I mean, that was probably one of the most awful offensive games I ever saw from Chicago. I mean, they had literally no offensively, just couldn't no answers. 16 points off turnovers. They allowed 10 steals. I mean, they kept. This is This is another time where they've kept their opponent, Las Vegas, almost below 65 points or more. They average Chicago, I think it was like 87 points in regular season. 59 points was all they could just salvage. That's bad. And on top of that, you didn't have Candace Parker out there. You didn't have like Alicia Clark had 13 points. Kia Stokes, 14 rebounds. Kelsey Plum, 16 points. Asia Wilson, 14 points, 8 rebounds, 4 blocks. I mean, I don't even know how do you even make adjustments if you're a team like Chicago at this point. I don't.
Well, I got a message from a friend of mine or actually the day of the game saying Breaking news. Alana Smith is going to start today for Chicago. 2005 minutes. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, how are you gonna start or have the confidence of starting if you're gonna get in foul trouble in like so fast of time? And I'll on that note, Alana Smith, Kalea Copper, Marina Mabry, they have one thing in common. They finished all with 4 fouls apiece. And that's not how you win. Those are two of your top 3 players. Like, those are two of your top players, Marina Mabry and Kalea Copper. And that's not how you win. That's not how you beat a team like Vegas.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it was one sided, and I'm sorry, the Chicago Sky are getting swept.
Guaranteed.
I still think Los Angeles should have made the playoffs. It's okay.
Vegas needs to the thing for they need to get this taken care of.
Yeah, because it's a wrap. Chicago has no answers for them. I mean, they're going to go out there and compete. I think you're going to get. I think you're going to get a better offensive outing from them, but not again. No.
I'll do you one better. Chicago not only doesn't have any answers for Vegas. Las Vegas has answers for Chicago's answers.
That's a good one. I like that. That was a good one. Yeah, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're looking at for. That's part 2. Stay tuned for part 3. Let's get into the last part of Big Nick Sports Talk Podcast, and that is the newly revised final segment called One Final Thought.
Thoughts are running through my mind, so I took some time to find a minute or two to organize them.
What's your final thought, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, the Mystic season isn't over, but obviously the Storm one is, and we didn't make the playoffs, and it's an unfortunate end of the season. But I mean, I had such a fun year covering this team this year. I accomplished. I set out a goal coming into the season to go to more games this year than I did the previous year, and I accomplished it. I went to 5 games this year, and I went to 3 games last year. I met so many Storm fans over there in Seattle, and I covered this team for 2 years. They were 2 very different years. Last year we were a contending team, and this year we're a rebuilding team. And I had just as fun, a little bit, maybe even a little bit more fun covering the team this year, because they're just they're that fun of a group. And I've met almost every single player on this team, and they're just so fun, and everyone's so nice. And I've just had a fun time being a Storm fan. And even though this season's cut short this year, I'm excited for next year, and I'm waiting for May to come, but from the month of May to come.
Yeah, I'll second that. This was actually my first season, one actually writing for the team, the Washington Mystics. Even though I got to cover them just a podcast, this is my first season actually really truly writing for them. It's been fun. Just being able to go to the games and seeing it from a different perspective than versus being on Zoom and watching them on TV. Met some great, amazing people. I can definitely see where this is going, for sure. So I'm stoked for tomorrow. Whatever happens, it's going to be a great series. I know the ladies are going to go out there and play their asses off. But it's not done because college basketball is right around the corner. Are you writing for Washington State this season?
Maybe. I gotta check in on that, but I might.
Okay. I know you had an announcement. Did you want to wait till part 3, or did you want to announce it now?
Let's wait till part 3.
Okay. So that sounds good. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to conclude Big Nate Sports Talk podcast. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Be tuning in for part 3. Most likely, we're going to record that episode Saturday. So, Brendan, I'll reach out to you later on this evening, and we'll pick a time probably around Saturday evening, and we'll record that for part 3, and it'll be out for Sunday's game because it's going to be probably about a 6-7 part series. And that probably most likely will end season 16 as we transition into football, college football, and then college basketball. So, and then we got the also too, we got to do the exit stage right segment. So definitely be tuning for that. Brendan, I appreciate you, buddy, for joining me on this episode. I will leave all your Twitter and the link to this your writings for covering the Seattle Storm. Great work this season. Definitely continue the work that you do for the community. Very proud of you. You're definitely doing big things. I know many people will echo those sentiments. I know you would say the same thing for me. I appreciate you taking the opportunity and just being part of these videos, joining me on these videos, man. So I will see you in part 3. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your night. Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace out, y'all.
Thank you for tuning in to Big Nate Sports Talk. If you enjoyed that episode, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the next big thing, the next up-and-coming sports journalist, Big Nate Sports Talk. It's on all the time, anytime.
I want to thank you, yeah. I want to thank you. Ooh. For all the times you put up with me. Thank you. And you helped me retain my sanity. Thank you. I want to thank you. And I want to thank you. All I want to do is say thank you for everything.